Why is it so comfortable to sit like an orangutan?
You might think that this orangutan is washing socks as some kind of circus trick for which she's been specially trained, but not so. She is doing this entirely on her own initiative.
Do people really like pineapple on their pizza? Is this the cutest thing you've ever seen?
Yeah, he's so cute! Oh my God,
I think so. And how do you set up your pond so that turtles can overwinter safely? That's the question. The answer coming right up.
You got questions, we've got answers. Just ask Kenan.
Hey, what's going on? Kenan here, and it's time for another Ask Kamp Kenan question. Today's question comes from Wesley, and Wesley asks, hey, how can I make my preformed pond safe, or what should I do so that my turtle can hibernate over the winter? And well, that's a great question, and even though I don't have to worry too much about hibernation down here in Florida, I still know a thing or two that will aid you in turning that pond into some place that a turtle can easily overwinter in. Now, first things first, you saw that cute little guy. I actually was filming the questions for today's Ask Kamp Kenan question intro, and I saw him right here. So this little Reeves turtle actually hatched out right in the ground here. So I wonder if there are more of his, well, clutch mates wandering about. I don't know. We had a pretty heavy rain, so usually that brings the animals up to the surface when they're trying to hatch out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of hold on to this little dude and answer the question and walk around. And I think the best thing to do would be for us to go to the ponds out front. And it really has to do with the depth of the pond, because when you're living up north and you guys have turtles that remain outside and you're dealing with species that can hibernate, like the red-eared slider turtle, like Blanding's turtles, like painted turtles, the thing is you can't just keep them outside without just kind of preparing their habitat. So what the first thing you need to do is make sure that the pond is deep enough that it won't freeze solid. So it should be at least 18 inches deep. You want it to go down deep. Now, water is an insulator, so the ice on top is going to freeze a few inches if you get really, really long, drawn-out cold days. But the water beneath is going to be just above freezing, okay? So it's not officially going to be solid, and you certainly don't want it to freeze solid. Now, here's the Aquascape Ecosystem Pond. It's Sophia's pond. You can see it's pretty deep. So if this pond were someplace up north, it would be okay. It wouldn't fully freeze all the way through. The other thing that would be advisable is to make sure that at least some of the surface does not freeze completely over. So in other words, if you have a pond that's just in this section, you don't want the entire surface to freeze, because you want to have some kind of gas exchange between the water and the atmosphere above it. So you got to have some gas exchange. If there is a film or a layer of ice, then you don't get that exchange, and it could potentially cause problems for the animals that are underneath it. So that's important. You can achieve this by putting a bubbler. Some kind of bubbler will keep the water moving, and it will not freeze completely over. The next thing that's very important to do, and what I would suggest doing, is over the course of the later months of the summer, probably end of August into October, what I would suggest doing is allowing detritus, leaves, mud, things to accumulate on the bottom. If you don't have a sandy substrate, I would add a little bit of sand also, because you want to have some substrate that the turtles can dig into. This again provides yet another way that they can insulate themselves against potential freezing temperatures. So it's very important that they have some mud and leaves to burrow under. You can also make a little cave. That would be something that I would do, but be careful. something that I've had have happen is sometimes if turtles get too cold, they and they don't have easy access to air for breathing air, then what will happen is they'll actually drown under the water. So you got to make sure, like I said, that there's an open area. If they do want to get up and take a breath, that they are able to do that on a more mild winter day. Because as we learned in previous Ask Kamp Kenans, they do not truly hibernate to where they're completely unconscious. They're actually in a state of brumation, which is a state of, they're still somewhat active. Their bodies haven't officially shut down. So there's still some things going on. They're not entirely asleep. So they may take a breath. They may take a drink if they're a tortoise that is actually hibernating on land. So you want to make sure that they are actually able to climb out and take a breath if they need to on a warmer day. So I would make sure that the slopes of your pond are such that they can easily do that. Now with these preformed ponds, sometimes the walls are too slick and the animal can drown in it. So that's something I would be very conscientious of. Aside from that, I'd add logs, I'd add little caves like I mentioned, they can wedge themselves into, feel secure, because if they are going to be in a more slow state, you don't want them to get eaten up by any predators, warm-blooded predators that are still out and about during the winter months, like raccoons. Those animals are still always looking for a meal. So you want to protect them against predators also. So that's my advice on what you should do to hibernate them or brumate them inside a pond that is outdoors. Inside, there are other things you can do. If you want to bring them out, you can put them in a refrigerator in peat moss that's moist. That's a little bit more hands-on. I prefer to let nature take its course. You want to slow down their feeding. You don't want to feed these animals heavily into September and October. They're going to start following the natural rhythms, the circadian rhythms and the rhythms of the sun, and the days are going to grow shorter. So they're not really going to want to eat as much. So they're slowing down, voiding the contents of their digestive tract so that it doesn't spoil inside their bodies as these bodies slow down for the winter. So there you have it, everybody. A little bit of an education on the brumation of aquatic turtles. And you can see that these ponds here are looking mighty fine. Really excited to have them in the front yard, but more excited that I don't have to worry about hibernation. So I hope that answers your question, Wesley. Thanks so much for your support. Guys, go to patreon.com/Kamp Kenan if you want to join up and help us make more videos. If you want to ask a question and get it answered right here on the channel, there you go. Get on over to patreon.com/Kamp Kenan. Like and subscribe to videos, folks. Share them if you'd like. Go to Instagram and check me out over there as well, at Kamp Kenan. And don't forget the Kamp Kenan Army channel with more exclusive content. We got more videos coming up this week. This is just a little taster, answering your questions. I'm going to now deal with this little baby right here and find a nice place for him to grow up and get big and strong. All right, everyone, thanks so much for your support, and I'll talk to you all again real soon. So you gotta be somewhat fast. Hey, what's up, dude? Look out, here they come. Here comes one.